खुद लिख रहे हैं, जब पहले हम सृष्ट बनाई, दैत रचे दुष्ट दुखदाई, ते भोज बाल बबरे होवे गए, पूजत परम पुरख रह गए। फिर अगे की होया? अकाल पुरख वाहिगुरु कहंदा है, ते हम तनक तमक मुँह खापे, तिन की ठौर देवता थापे। ते हम तनक तमक मुँह खापे, तनक तो भाव है रंचक पर, थोड़े जे गुस्से दे विच आके, नाराज़गी विच आके उन्हां दैंतां दा, दुष्टां दा मैं नाश कर दिता है। परमेश्वर कह रहा है, ते हम तनक तमक मुँह खापे, तिनके ठौर देवता थापे। फिर उन्हां दी थां ते देवते बना दिते। वो देवते किहड़े सन? वैसे तो 33 करोड़ देवतियां दी संख्या शास्त्रकारां ने लिखी हुई है। गुरबाणी विच भी 33 करोड़ देवतियां दी गिणती का जिक्र आउंदा है। वो देवते बना दिते, उन्हां विचों 3 प्रमुख सन, ब्रह्मा, विष्णु ते शिव। जदों उन्हां दैंतां नूं हंकार हो गया, परमेश्वर नूं भुल बैठे, फिर वाहिगुरु ने देवते पैदा किए। फिर उन्होंने की किया? ते भी बल पूजा उरझाए, आपन ही परमेश्वर कहाए। उन्हां देवतियां नूं भी इन्ना हंकार होया, वो बलियां लैण लग पे, पूजा कराउण लग पे। अपने आप नूं ही उन्होंने परमेश्वर अखवाउणा शुरू कर दिता। ब्रह्मा, विष्णु, शिव जी 3 वड्डे सन, देवतियां दे प्रमुख सन। ये अपने आप नूं परमेश्वर रब मनण लग पे। हजूर अगे लिखते हैं, ब्रह्मा आप पार ब्रह्म बखाना, प्रभ को प्रभु न किन्हों जाना। ब्रह्मा कहता मैं ही पार ब्रह्म परमेश्वर हाँ, पर असली परमेश्वर नूं इन्हां देवतियां ने कदी जानिया ही नहीं। एक कलगीधर पातशाह लिखते हैं, गुरु नानक साहब नूं दुनिया विच क्यों आउणा पिया? ये जिहड़े देवते सन, ये भी रब नूं भुल गए, तो उहदी थां ते आप ही रब बन के, परमेश्वर बन के अपनी पूजा करवाउण लग पे सन। महादेव अच्युत कहवायो, विष्णु आप ही को ठहरायो। ब्रह्मा आओ पार ब्रह्म बखाना, प्रभ को प्रभु न किन्हों जाना। महादेव शिव जी का नाम है। वो कहता मैं ही अच्युत, अच्युत का अर्थ होंदा अगैड़ स्वरूप, जिहड़ा अपनी पदवी तो कदे ना डिगे। अकाल पुरख वाहिगुरु परमेश्वर की बादशाहत हमेशा लई कायम दायम रहन वाली है। इस वास्ते ये जिहड़े देवते सन, महादेव कहता मैं परमेश्वर हाँ। विष्णु कहता, विष्णु कहन लगा मैं रब हाँ। ब्रह्मा आओ पार ब्रह्म बखाना, ब्रह्मा कहता मैं पार ब्रह्म हाँ, मैं किसी तो घट नहीं। प्रभ को प्रभु न किन्हों जाना। असली अकाल पुरख नूं इन्हां देवतियां ने समझिया ही नहीं। ते जे इन्हां देवतियां ने असली रब नूं जाणिया हुंदा, फिर ये अपने आप नूं परमेश्वर ना खवाउंदे। ये गल कलगीधर पातशाह ही ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਿਖੀ। ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਾ, ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਾਣੀ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਬਾਣੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਸੰਕੇਤ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ। 30ਵੀਂ ਪੌੜੀ ਹੈ, ਏਕਾ ਮਾਈ ਜੁਗਤ ਵਿਆਈ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੇਲੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ। ਇੱਕ ਸੰਸਾਰੀ, ਇੱਕ ਭੰਡਾਰੀ, ਇੱਕ ਲਾਏ ਦੀ ਬਾਣ। ਏਕਾ ਮਾਈ, ਇੱਕ ਮਾਂ ਸੀ। ਇੱਥੇ ਮਾਇਆ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਂ ਲਿਖਿਆ। ਮਾਇਆ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਮਾਇਆ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਤੀ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇੱਕ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮਾਇਆ ਰੂਪ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਸੀ, ਜੁਗਤ ਵਿਆਈ, ਇਸ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁਗਤ ਦਾ ਅਰਥ ਹੈ ਕਲਪਤ ਤਦਾਤਮ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਕੀਤਾ। ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ ਨੇ ਨਾ, ਕਾਬਲੇ ਗੌਰ ਨੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਨਿਰਾਕਾਰ। ਇਸ ਮਾਇਆ ਨੇ, ਮਾਇਆ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਇਹਨੇ ਉਸ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਲਪਤ ਤਦਾਤਮ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਸਥਾਪਿਤ ਕੀਤਾ। ਫਿਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ? ਵਿਆਹੀ, ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਸੂਤਾ ਭਾਵ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋਈ, ਭਾਵ ਪ੍ਰੈਗਨੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਫਿਰ ਇਸਨੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ? ਤਿੰਨ ਚੇਲੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ। ਇਸ ਮਾਇਆ ਨੇ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੇਲੇ ਪੈਦਾ ਕੀਤੇ। ਚੇਲੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਰਥ ਸਮਝਦੇ ਹੋਵੋਗੇ। ਚੇਲਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਦਾਸ ਹੋਵੇ, ਸੇਵਾਦਾਰ ਹੋਵੇ, ਨੌਕਰ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਚੇਲਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ, ਸਿਖਿਆਰਥੀ ਵੀ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਇਸ ਮਾਇਆ ਰੂਪੀ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਨੇ ਤਿੰਨ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਪੈਦਾ ਕੀਤੇ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਹੀ ਚੇਲੇ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ। ਅਸਲੀ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਛਾਣਿਆ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ, ਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਵੀ ਕੀਤਾ। ਆ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਦੇਵੀ ਦੇਵਤਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਉਪਾਸਕ ਨੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇਵਤਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਜਦੇ ਵੀ ਨੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਭਗਵਾਨ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ, ਰਾਮ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ, ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਮੰਨ ਕੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪੂਜਾ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹ ਹੈ ਕੌਣ? ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਨਾਮ ਲਿਖੇ ਨੇ। ਇੱਕ ਸੰਸਾਰੀ, ਇੱਕ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਦੀ ਰਚਨਾ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲਾ, ਉਹ ਕੌਣ ਹੈ? ਬ੍ਰਹਮਾ। ਬ੍ਰਹਮਾ ਆਪਰ ਬ੍ਰਹਮ ਬਖਾਨਾ। ਇੱਕ ਭੰਡਾਰੀ, ਇੱਕ ਭੰਡਾਰੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਜ਼ਕ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਹੈ ਵਿਸ਼ਨੂੰ। ਇੱਕ ਲਾਏ ਦੀ ਬਾਣ, ਇੱਕ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਬਾਣ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ, ਜੀਵਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨਾ ਹੀ ਚੰਗਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਹੈ ਸ਼ਿਵ ਜੀ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਿੰਨ ਸ਼ਕਤੀਆਂ ਵੀ ਆਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਤਿੰਨ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਹਾਜ਼ੂਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਵ ਤਿਸ ਭਾਵੈ ਤਿਵੈ ਚਲਾਵੈ, ਜਿਵ ਹੋਵੈ ਪ੍ਰਮਾਣ। ਜਿਵ ਤਿਸ ਭਾਵੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਉਸ ਮਾਇਆ ਨੂੰ ਚੰਗਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਚੇਲੇ ਨੇ, ਮਾਇਆ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੈਦਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਉਸ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਦੇ ਹੀ ਚੇਲੇ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ, ਅਸਲੀ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਤੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ। ਜਿਵ ਤਿਸ ਭਾਵੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮਾਇਆ ਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਚੰਗਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ, ਉਵੇਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਲਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਗੁਲਾਮ ਨੇ, ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਦਾਸ ਨੇ, ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਚੇਲੇ ਨੇ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਾਉਂਦਾ ਉਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਲਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਵ ਤਿਸ ਭਾਵੈ ਤਿਵੈ ਚਲਾਵੈ ਜਿਵ ਹੋਵੈ ਫਰਮਾਨ। ਤੇ ਇਹ ਮਾਇਆ ਕਿਹਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਹੈ? ਇਹ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਦਾ ਹੁਕਮ ਮਾਇਆ ਨੂੰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਮਾਇਆ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਦੀ, ਇਹ ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਗਏ ਹੋਵੋਗੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇਵਤਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਅਸਥਾਨ ਕੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਚੇਲੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੀ ਆਗਿਆ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਾ ਆਵੇ। ਉਹ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੋ ਇਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਬ੍ਰਹਮਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਿਵ ਜੀ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ। ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਦੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਾ ਆਵੇ, ਪਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੱਬ ਦਿਸਦਾ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ। ਉਹ ਦੇਖਦਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਪਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ। ਇੱਥੋਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਨੇ, ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅਸਲੀ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਜਦੋਂ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਦੀ ਤਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਦੂਰ ਰਹਿ ਗਈ। ਉਹ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਾ ਆਵੇ ਬਹੁਤਾ ਇਹੋ ਵਡਾਨ। ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਬੜਾ ਅਸਚਰਜ ਕੌਤਕ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖਦਾ, ਪਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ। ਇੱਕ ਸੁਖਮਨੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਲੋਕ ਹੈ, ਸਤ ਪੁਰਖ ਜਨ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਤਿਸ ਕਾ ਨਾਮ। ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ? ਜਿਸ ਨੇ ਸਤਿਪੁਰਖ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣ ਲਿਆ, ਉਹ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹਦਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਧਾਰਨ ਅਰਥ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਪੰਕਤੀ ਦਾ, ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤੇ ਲੋਕ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਸ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਸਤਿਪੁਰਖ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣ ਲਿਆ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਸੱਚਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਉਹ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਦਾਅਵਾ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਲੋਕ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਨੇ, ਬਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣ ਲਿਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਬ੍ਰਹਮ ਗਿਆਨੀ ਬਣ ਗਏ ਹਾਂ। ਹੁਣ ਸਾਰੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਬਣ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ, ਪਰ ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਵਾਸੀ ਪੰਥ ਰਤਨ ਸ਼੍ਰੀਮਾਨ ਸੰਤ ਗਿਆਨੀ ਗੁਰਬਚਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਪਿੰਡਰਾਂ ਵਾਲੇ ਇਸ ਪੰਕਤੀ ਦਾ ਅਰਥ ਇਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਨ, ਸਤਿਪੁਰਖ ਜਨ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਤਿਸ ਕਾ ਨਾਮ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ, ਉਹ ਸਤਿਪੁਰਖ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਦੇਵਤਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਨਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਨੇ, ਜਦੋਂ ਦੇਵਤਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਸ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੁਛ ਗਿਆਨ ਹਾਸਲ ਕੀਤਾ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪੈਰੋਕਾਰ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਉਪਾਸ਼ਕ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਭਗਤ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਜਾਣ ਸਕਦੇ? ਨਹੀਂ ਨਾ ਜਾਣ ਸਕਦੇ। ਸਤਿਪੁਰਖ ਜਨ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਤਿਸ ਕਾ ਨਾਮ। ਉਹ ਸਤਿਪੁਰਖ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਅੱਜ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਪੀਰ ਪੈਗੰਬਰ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਿਆ। ਜੇ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਆਪ ਉਹਦੀ ਬਰਾਬਰੀ ਨਾ ਕਰਦੇ, ਉਹਦੀ ਥਾਂ ਨਾ ਮੱਲਦੇ। ਪਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਆਦਤ ਬਣ ਗਈ ਵੀ ਅਸਲੀ ਰੱਬ ਤੇ ਅਦ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਟ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਚਲੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੀ ਰੱਬ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਵੇਖ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਸਲੀ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਰੂਪ ਨਾ ਰੇਖ ਨਾ ਰੰਗ ਕਸ਼ਤਰੇ ਗੁਣ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਪੈਨ। ਉਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਰੰਗ ਰੂਪ ਦਾ ਮੁਹਤਾਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਲੋਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਉਹ ਤੇ ਰੱਬ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ। ਕਈ ਤਾਂ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ। ਇੱਥੋਂ ਹੀ ਆ ਕੇ ਭੁਲੇਖਾ ਖਾ ਗਏ। ਹੁਣ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਅਸਲੀ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਜਾਣਿਆ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੀ ਰੱਬ ਭਗਵਾਨ ਬਣ ਕੇ, ਰਾਮ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਈਏ। ਹੁਣ ਇਸੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਸੀ। ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸਲੀ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਨੂੰ ਦਰਸਾਉਣ ਵਾਲਾ, ਉਸ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਭਗਤੀ ਦੇ ਮਾਰਗ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਗਟ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲਾ ਕੋਈ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸਾਰੇ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਪੂਜਾ ਪ੍ਰਤਿਸ਼ਠਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਲਝ ਕੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ। ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਣਾ ਪਿਆ। ਆਪ ਨਾਰਾਇਣ ਕਲਾ ਤਾਰ ਜਗ ਮੈਂ ਪਰਵਰਿਓ, ਨਿਰੰਕਾਰ ਆਕਾਰ ਜੋਤ ਜਗ ਮੰਡਲ ਕਰਿਓ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕੁਝ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕੋਈ ਚੱਕਰਵਰਤੀ ਬਾਦਸ਼ਾਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਦੇ ਕੋਨੇ 'ਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਗੜਬੜ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਕੋਈ ਬਗਾਵਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਕੋਈ ਗਦਰ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਦਬਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਰਨੈਲ ਨੂੰ ਭੇਜਦਾ, ਕਿਸੇ ਵਜ਼ੀਰ ਨੂੰ ਘੱਲ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਨਾਲ। ਜਦੋਂ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਬਹੁਤਾ ਵਿਗੜਦਾ ਦਿਸੇ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਹੋਰ ਬਹੁਤੀਆਂ ਫੌਜਾਂ ਭੇਜ ਦਿੰਦਾ, ਹੋਰ ਜਰਨੈਲ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਭੇਜ ਦਿੰਦਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਸਭ ਦੇ ਸਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਪਾਣੀ ਲੰਘ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਚੱਕਰਵਰਤੀ ਬਾਦਸ਼ਾਹ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ, ਮੇਰੇ ਗਏ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣਨੀ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਹੁਣ ਦੇ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਵਰਫੁਲ ਦੇਸ਼ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਹੁਣ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਵ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਲੜਾਈ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਟਰੰਪ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਿਗੜਿਆ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਠੀਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਿਆ, ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਸ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਆਉਣਾ ਪਿਆ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਰੂਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰਗਟ ਹੋਇਆ। ਬਾਕੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੇਵੀ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕਲਗੀਧਰ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਰਾਮ ਬਾਰ ਬੁਹਾਰ, ਕਈ ਕ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨ ਆਓ ਮੁਖਚਾਰ। ਕਿ ਰਾਮ ਚੰਦਰ ਵਰਗੇ ਅਵਤਾਰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਦਰ ਦੇ ਝਾੜੂ ਬਰਦਾਰ ਨੇ। ਬੁਹਾਰ ਝਾੜੂ ਬਰਦਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸਫਾਈ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਨੌਕਰ। ਕਈ ਕ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨ ਆਓ ਮੁਖਚਾਰ, ਕਈ ਕ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨ ਵਰਗੇ ਅਵਤਾਰ। ਲੋਕੀ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਭਗਵਾਨ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਰਾਮ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਉਹ ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਦਰ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਖਿਦਮਤਗਾਰ ਨੇ, ਸੇਵਾਦਾਰ ਨੇ। ਜਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਦੇਵੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਦਰ 'ਤੇ ਝਾੜੂ ਫੇਰਦੀਆਂ। ਹੁਣ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਮਹਾਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ। ਗੁਰ ਜੈਸਾ ਨਾਹੀ ਕੋ ਦੇਵ, ਜਿਸ ਮਸਤਕ ਭਾਗ ਸੋ ਲਾਗਾ ਸੇ। ਗੁਰੂ ਵਰਗਾ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਦੇਵਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਜੇ ਦੇਵਤਾ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਦੇਵੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾ ਮਾਰਗ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਮਾਰਿਆ ਸਿੱਕਾ ਜਗਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਪੰਥ ਚਲਾਇਆ। ਉਸ ਮਾਰਗ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਪੰਥ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ। ਦੂਸਰਾ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ, ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਗਾਡੀ ਰਾਹ ਚਲਾਇਆ, ਗਾਡੀ ਰਾਹ। ਆ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ GT ਰੋਡ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਇੱਥੇ ਹਾਈਵੇ ਫਰੀਵੇ ਬਣੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾ ਮਾਰਗ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਭੁਲੇਖਾ ਨਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਵੇ। ਸਾਰੇ ਥਾਵਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਸਾਈਨ ਬੋਰਡ ਲਿਖੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਬਈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਪਾਓ ਅਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਪਹੁੰਚਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ। ਹੁਣ ਜਿਸ ਨੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ, ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਵਸੈ ਨਿਰੰਕਾਰ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਧਰਮ ਮਾਰਗ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰ ਦੇਵੇ ਅਤੇ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਮੰਜ਼ਿਲ ਦਰ ਮੰਜ਼ਿਲ ਪੈਂਡਾ ਤੈਅ ਕਰਕੇ ਧਰਮ ਖੰਡ ਤੋਂ ਗਿਆਨ ਖੰਡ, ਗਿਆਨ ਖੰਡ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਸਰਮ ਖੰਡ, ਸਰਮ ਖੰਡ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਕਰਮ ਖੰਡ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਦਾ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਕਰਮ ਖੰਡ ਤੋਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਕਰਮ ਖੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਭਗਤ ਨੇ, ਧਰਮੀ ਸੂਰਮੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਰਮ ਖੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ। ਸੱਚਖੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਹੁਕਮ ਕਰਦਾ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਭੇਜ ਦਿੰਦਾ। ਆਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦੇਵੀ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਸਨ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਭੇਜੇ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਨ, ਪਰ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਫਰਮਾਇਆ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਾ ਆਵੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਅਦ੍ਰਿਸ਼ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ ਇਹ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਏ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਰੱਬ ਹੈ ਹੀ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਤੇ ਆਪ ਰੱਬ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਬੈਠ ਗਏ। ਅਤੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਦੇ ਦਾਸ, ਉਹਦੇ ਭਗਤ, ਉਹਦੇ ਸੇਵਕ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਦਰਸਾਇਆ ਹੈ। ਅਤੇ ਆਪ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਹਾਂ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅਸਲੀ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਾ ਜਣਾਉਂਦਾ, ਅਤੇ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਕਦੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਜਣਾਇਆ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸੂਰਜ ਨੂੰ ਕਦੀ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਸੂਰਜ ਹਾਂ, ਚੰਦਰਮਾ ਨੂੰ ਕਦੀ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਚੰਦਰਮਾ ਹਾਂ। ਜਦੋਂ ਚੜ੍ਹਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦਾ। ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਨਾਨਕ, ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਦੇਵੀ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਪਰਮੇਸ਼ਰ ਨੂੰ ਭੁੱਲ ਗਏ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਪੰਥ ਚਲਾ ਲਏ, ਪਰ ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਮਿਲਣ ਦਾ ਰਸਤਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ, ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਵੀ। ਅਤੇ ਜੇ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਦਾ ਰਾਹ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖੀ ਮਾਰਗ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ। ਇਹਨੂੰ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਪੰਥ, ਗਾਡੀ ਰਾਹ, ਅਤੇ ਕੀ ਤੁਸ ਆਪਣਾ ਪੰਥ ਨਿਰਾਲਾ, ਇਹਨੂੰ ਨਿਰਾਲਾ ਪੰਥ ਵੀ ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ। ਬਹੁਤੇ ਲੋਕ ਹੋਰ ਧਰਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਨਾਤਨ ਧਰਮ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਆਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਇਸਲਾਮ ਧਰਮ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੁਝ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਯਤਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਬਈ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਡੇ ਧਰਮ ਦਾ ਅੰਗ ਸਨ। ਸਨਾਤਨ ਧਰਮੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸਿੱਖ ਕੋਈ ਵੱਖਰੀ ਕੌਮ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦਾ ਧਰਮ ਕੋਈ ਵੱਖਰਾ ਧਰਮ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇੱਕ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਧਰਮ ਦਾ ਹੀ, ਸਨਾਤਨ ਧਰਮ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਫਿਰਕਾ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਲਗੀਧਰ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਤੋਂ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਧਰਮ ਕਿਸ ਨੇ ਚਲਾਇਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਪਸ਼ਟ ਲਿਖਿਆ। ਤਿੰਨ ਬੇਦੀਆਂ ਕੀ ਕੋਲ ਵਿਖੇ ਪ੍ਰਗਟੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਰਾਏ, ਸਭ ਸਿੱਖਣ ਕੋ ਸੁਖ ਦੇ ਜੈ ਤੈਂ ਪੈ ਸਹਾਏ। ਤਿੰਨ ਇਹ ਕਲਮੋ ਧਰਮ ਚਲਾਇਓ, ਸਭ ਸਾਧਨ ਕੋ ਰਾਹ ਬਤਾਇਓ। ਸਿੱਖ ਧਰਮ ਦੀ ਆਰੰਭਤਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਕੀਤੀ। ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਦਾ ਰਸਤਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਪੂਜਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਫਸ ਕੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ। ਜਿੰਨੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੇਵੀ ਦੇਵਤੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ, ਕਦੇ ਕਲਗੀਧਰ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੀ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਬਾਣੀ ਦਸਮ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਦੇਖੋ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਸ਼ਨੂੰ ਦੇ 24 ਅਵਤਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਥਾ, 11 ਰੁਦਰ ਦੇ ਅਵਤਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਥਾ, 7 ਬ੍ਰਹਮਾ ਦੇ ਅਵਤਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਥਾ ਵੀ ਲਿਖੀ ਹੈ। ਨੇਕ ਕਲੰਕ ਅਵਤਾਰ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ। ਮੀਰ ਮਹਿੰਦੀ ਜਿਸ ਨੇ ਨੇਕ ਕਲੰਕ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦਾ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਉਸ ਕੈਟਾਗਰੀ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਸਨ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਭੇਜਿਆ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਉਹ ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਭੁੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਪ ਉਹਦੀ ਥਾਂ ਮੱਲ ਕੇ ਬੈਠ ਗਏ ਸਨ। ਅਤੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਜਣਾਇਆ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦਾ ਦਾਸ ਅਖਵਾ ਕੇ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਭਾਵ ਭਗਤੀ ਦਾ ਮਾਰਗ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ। ਤੈਨੇ ਕਲਮੋਂ ਧਰਮ ਚਲਾਇਓ, ਸਭ ਸਾਧਨ ਕੋ ਰਾਹ ਬਤਾਇਓ, ਜੋ ਤਾਕੇ ਮਾਰਗ ਮੋਹ ਆਏ, ਤਾ ਪਾਪ ਕਬਹੂ ਨਾ ਸੰਤਾਏ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਰਸਤੇ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਹੈ, ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇ ਮਾਰਗ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਤਾਪ ਅਤੇ ਪਾਪ ਇਹ ਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਤਾ ਸਕਦੇ। ਇਹ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇ ਮਾਰਗ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਣ ਦਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਫਲ ਹੈ। ਆਪਾਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਉਸ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖੀ ਮਾਰਗ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲੀਏ, ਅਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੋਰ ਮਜ਼ਹਬ ਨੇ, ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਧਰਮ ਨੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾੜਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ, ਪਰ ਉਹ ਭਰਮ ਭੁਲੇਖੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਗਾਡੀ ਰਾਹ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲੀਏ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਜ਼ਿਲ 'ਤੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਣਾ ਆਸਾਨ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ। ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਲਿੰਕ ਰੋਡਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਾਂਗੇ, ਹੋਰ ਪੱਗ ਡੰਡੀਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲਣ ਦਾ ਯਤਨ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਅਤੇ ਮੰਜ਼ਿਲ 'ਤੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਣਾ ਔਖਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ। ਬਸ ਇਹੀ ਦਾਸ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਵੀ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਹੋ, ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਹੋ, ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਮਹਿਮਾ 'ਤੇ ਅਪਰਪਾਰ ਹੈ, ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ। ਜੇ ਵਾ ਇਹ ਕਵਨ ਗੁਣ ਕਹੀ ਹੈ, ਬੇਸ਼ੁਮਾਰ ਬੇਅੰਤ ਸੁਆਮੀ, ਤੇਰੋ ਅੰਤ ਨਾ ਕਿਨਹੀ ਲਹੀ ਹੈ। ਹੁਣ ਦਾਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੀਮਤ ਕਰਦਾ, ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਦਾਸ ਇੱਕ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦਾ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆਰਥੀ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋ, ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਪਾਂਧੀ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋ, ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਗੁਰਮਤਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ 10 ਮਿੰਟ ਦਾਸ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਟੇਜ 'ਤੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾਲਤਾ ਕਰਿਓ। ਤੁਸ਼ ਬੁੱਧੀ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਆਪ ਆਪਣੀ ਬੁੱਧ ਹੈ ਜੇਤੀ, ਵਰਣਤ ਪੈਨ ਪੈਨ ਤੋਹਿ ਤੇਤੀ, ਅਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਦਾਸ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇਣ ਦਾ ਯਤਨ ਕਰੇਗਾ। ਸਭ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੁਲਾਓ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'll try to quickly translate what Sant Gyani Avtar Singh Ji said to the Sangat for anybody that didn't understand. I know it's very Dungi Punjabi when we listen to katha, and there's a lot of things that for us Aam Sangat is difficult to understand when we listen to katha, or for us that are born and raised in the West, it's difficult to understand the katha. So I'll try my best just to quickly translate what Gyani Ji had said throughout the katha. Gyani Ji first started out by saying that Guru Nanak Dev Ji's greatness, Guru Nanak Dev Ji's avastha, was that of Parmeshwar himself. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji aap Parmeshwar san. Parmeshwar is a word that we use to describe Par Brahm. I use that word to describe Akal Purakh. So Akal Purakh's sargun form, the physical form that Akal Purakh takes in this world, is that of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Why did Guru Nanak Dev Ji take this form? Gyani Ji quoted Bachittar Natak, which Guru Gobind Singh Ji had written. All of the previous avatars, all of the previous prophets, the previous people that came down to try to preach Dharam, Guru Gobind Singh Ji had written that the very first beings that were created in the world, when the Srishti, when this visible world that you see was created, was these primal beings, these demons, these primal beings that walked the earth. These primal beings, being the first that had been created, had thought of themselves as God. They started calling themselves God. In the ego of calling themselves God, Parmeshwar then decided to come in and destroy those beings. After these beings were destroyed, then you had the Devte that became created by Parmeshwar. Then Gyani Ji quoted this line from Japji Sahib, Ekka Mai Jugt Vyai Tin Chale Parvan, Ek Sansari Ek Pandhari, Ek Lai Divan. So this pankti from Japji Sahib, when we say Ekka Mai, Mai here refers to Maya. Maya is the Shakti of Akal Purakh. We can also call it Kudrat. We can call it the world that we see, all that you see around you, the illusion of duality, that is Maya. So this Shakti of Akal Purakh, which is Maya, had created these Devte. There are 33 crore Devte, which I believe translates to 330 million gods and goddesses that were created. Out of these gods and goddesses, the three ones that were the main ones that were created by Maya, which was a Shakti of Akal Purkh, were Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. So Eka Maya Jukt Vyai, Tin Chale Pravan, Ek Sansari. Sansari is the one that created the Sansar, that's Brahma. Ek Pandari, the one that sustains that Sansar, is Vishnu. Ek Ilai Divan, and then comes into Shiva. The problem was that these three had also started calling themselves God. These three had also fallen into the illusion that they themselves were God. And in that illusion, they had failed as well. There's a line, a Pankti in Sukhmani Sahib, that's often mistranslated by Pracharaks, but Sant Gyani Gurbachan Singh Ji translates this Pankti as, outside of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, besides Guru Nanak Dev Ji, beyond Guru Nanak Dev Ji, there is nobody else. There is no other Purakh, Brahmgyani Sant that can live up to the standard of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji is the greatest of them all. We also have Sabte Varda, Sadguru Nanak Jinkar Rakhi Meri, that Guru Nanak Dev Ji is the highest of them all. There's nobody higher than Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So in this ego, all of these different prophets, these different gods and goddesses that came up, by calling themselves God, they themselves failed. And in that, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Parameshwar decided to take form himself as Guru Nanak Dev Ji in order to give us the rasta of Sikhi, of Guru Sikhi, that can save us in Kaljug, that can save us in ways that previous prophets, previous avatars couldn't. And so just like how when there's a problem going on in a country, so for example, if there's an issue going on in the United States, Trump will go and deal with that issue. If there's an issue going on in a different country, then the Mukhyamantri of that country will go and deal with that issue. When there's an issue going on with all of these prophets, all of these gods and goddesses that failed to give the Sikhi path, that's when Guru Nanak Dev Ji, who himself was the King of Kings, himself was Haka Haka Agah Guru Gobind Singh, who himself was the former Guru Nanak Dev Ji, they themselves came down in order to save the Sansar. And so in that way, this path of Guru Sikhi is one that Guru Sahib, being Parameshwar himself, came down and gave us. Previous avatars had fallen into the trap of calling themselves God. When Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, all of our Gurus had never once called themselves God. They never, even though they were God, the same way that the sun doesn't need to announce itself as the sun. When it comes, you know by the fruit of its light. When the moon rises, it doesn't need to announce itself as the moon. When God comes onto this earth, they don't need to announce themselves as God. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji never fell into the trap that previous prophets of other religions. And Gyaniji also said that these other religions, these other dharams, are not less than. We shouldn't look down on them, but we should understand that the path of Guru Sikhi that we've been given is one that's the highest of them all. Sabte Vadda Satguru Nanak Jinkar Rakhi Meri. And within our universities, within all that we do, we should do this parchar, continue this parchar of Sikhi, and continue to preach Guru Sikhi, follow Guru Sikhi, follow the path of Guru Sikhi to the best of our abilities, keep the Sarup of Guru Sahib that Maharaj gave us himself, and continue practicing this path. So now Gyaniji is saying that if anybody would like to ask any questions, English or Punjabi, feel free to ask your questions now, and then we can ask Gyaniji and continue with the program. Hanji. We can just do a raise of hands. Also, if anybody wants to ask a question anonymously, if they'd like to just kind of write it down or ask a Sevadar to ask, we can do that as well. We have some Sevadars at the back, if anybody needs to ask them a question, and then the Sevadars can come and ask us.
ਸੋ ਦਾਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਭਾਈ ਗੁਰਜਾਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਦਾਸ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਰੱਖੇ ਸਨ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਟਰਾਂਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਯਤਨ ਕੀਤਾ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਵੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਦਾ, ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਹਾਰਦਿਕ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਾਂ, ਜੋ ਅਗਲਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਆਪ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਸਰਵਣ ਕਰੋ। ਦਾਸ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਭੁੱਲਾਂ ਚੁੱਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਖਿਮਾ ਕਰਨਾ। ਤੇ ਦਾਸ ਆਗਿਆ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਬੁਲਾਓ ਫਤਿਹ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਗਿਆਨੀ ਜੀ, ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਮਹਿਮਾ ਸੁਣਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਭਾਈ ਮੋਹਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਸੱਦਾ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਗਿਆਨੀ ਅਵਤਾਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਸਨਮਾਨ ਕਰਨ। ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਾਰਜਕ੍ਰਮ ਦੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਭਾਗ ਵੱਲ ਵਧਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਭਾਈ ਮੋਹਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਅਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਬਲਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਵਿਚਕਾਰ ਇੱਕ ਫਾਇਰਸਾਈਡ ਚਰਚਾ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਵਿੱਚ ਧਾਰਮਿਕ ਗਰੂਮਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਮਾਮਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਵਿਆਪਕਤਾ 'ਤੇ ਕੇਂਦਰਿਤ ਰਹੇਗੀ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਦੋਵੇਂ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਤਜਰਬਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਆਧਾਰ 'ਤੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰਨਗੇ। ਭਾਈ ਮੋਹਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਸੁਸਾਇਟੀ SAS ਦੇ ਸੰਸਥਾਪਕ ਹਨ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ 'ਚ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਇੱਕ ਨਾਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਫਿਟਸ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਦਰਾਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰ ਅਤੇ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰਨ, ਸੈਂਸਿਟਿਵ ਵਿਅਕਤੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰਨ ਅਤੇ ਔਖੀਆਂ ਸਮਾਜਿਕ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਨਿਡਰ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਨਜਿੱਠਣ ਲਈ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਹੈ। ਪਿਛਲੇ 20 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਭਾਈ ਮੋਹਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਗਰੂਮਿੰਗ ਗੈਂਗਸ, ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਸ਼ੋਸ਼ਣ ਅਤੇ ਸੰਸਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਨਾਕਾਮੀਆਂ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੀੜਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਸੀ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਗਰੂਕਤਾ ਫੈਲਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਮੋਰਚੇ 'ਤੇ ਡਟੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ। SAS ਰਾਹੀਂ ਉਹ ਪੁਲਿਸ, ਸਕੂਲ, ਧਾਰਮਿਕ ਅਤੇ ਕੌਮੀ ਸੰਗਠਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਪੀੜਤਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਕਰਨ ਅਤੇ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ, ਸ਼ਕਤੀਕਰਨ ਅਤੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਉਤਸ਼ਾਹਿਤ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੌਮ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਪੀੜ੍ਹੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਪਾੜ ਨੂੰ ਭਰਨ 'ਤੇ ਵੀ ਧਿਆਨ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਮੂਲੀਅਤ, ਔਰਤਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਆਵਾਜ਼ਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਧਾਰਮਿਕ ਅਤੇ ਸਧਾਰਨ ਸਥਾਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖਿਅਕ ਪ੍ਰਣਾਲੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਮੋਹਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਅਕਸਰ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸਾਂ, ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਮੰਚਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਬੋਲਣ ਲਈ ਸੱਦਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਗ੍ਰਾਸਰੂਟ ਹਕੀਕਤਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਆਧਾਰਿਤ ਨਿਰਭੈ ਅਤੇ ਨੈਤਿਕ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸਾਂਝੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਭਾਈ ਬਲਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਾਰਕੁਨ ਅਤੇ ਵਕੀਲ ਹਨ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਸੰਨ 2009 ਤੋਂ ਵਰਲਡ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਕਾਨੂੰਨੀ ਸਲਾਹਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਨਿਭਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ। ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਆਫ ਆਟਵਾ ਦੇ ਫੈਕਲਟੀ ਆਫ ਲਾਅ ਤੋਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਨ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਭਾਈ ਬਲਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖ ਮਸਲਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਨਜਿੱਠਣ ਲਈ ਦਿਨ ਰਾਤ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਕਈ ਅਕੋਮੋਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਸਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਹੱਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ, ਐਲਬਰਟਾ ਐਂਡ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੀਆਂ ਅਦਾਲਤਾਂ 'ਚ ਕਿਰਪਾਨ ਦੀ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ, ਵਾਇਆ ਰੇਲ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਦੂਤਵਾਸਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਕੌਂਸੂਲੇਟਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਰਪਾਨ ਪਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਅਕੋਮੋਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦਵਾਈ ਹੈ। ਅਦਾਲਤ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਵੀ ਉਹ ਨਿਯਮਿਤ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਵਿਸ਼ਿਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਸਮੇਂ 'ਤੇ ਉਹ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨ ਦੀ ਦਖਲਅੰਦਾਜ਼ੀ 'ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ ਭਾਈ ਹਰਦੀਪ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਿੱਜਰ ਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਹਾਦਤ ਦੇ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਮਸਲੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਹੁਣ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ 'ਚ। Now we move on to the next segment of the event, which is a fireside discussion between Bhai Mohan Singh and Bhai Balpreet Singh on the prevalence of the issue of religious grooming in Ontario based on their own experiences in dealing with such cases. Bhai Mohan Singh ji is the founder of the Sikh Awareness Society, SAS, which is a UK-based non-profit organization dedicated to promoting Sikh values, protecting vulnerable individuals, and tackling difficult social issues. For over 20 years, he has been at the forefront of raising awareness about grooming gangs, child exploitation, and institutional failures that silence victims. Through SAS, he works with the police, schools, faith groups, and community organizations to support survivors and promote education, empowerment, and accountability. He also focuses on bridging generational gaps within the Sikh community, championing youth engagement, women's voices, and the importance of safeguarding in both religious and secular spaces. Mohan Singh is widely recognized as a leading voice in the Sikh community and is frequently invited to speak at conferences like ours, universities, and media platforms where he offers candid and ethically grounded insights informed by grassroots realities. Bhai Balpreet Singh is a Sikh activist and lawyer who has been serving as the legal counsel of the World Sikh Organization of Canada since the year 2009. After graduating from the University of Ottawa's Faculty of Law, he has worked tirelessly for Sikh causes in Canada and has resolved several accommodation issues like wearing kirpans in courthouses of Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia, via rail trains, and Canadian embassies and consulates globally. Beyond the courthouse, he regularly engages with Sikhs and educates them on a variety of topics. He is currently working on India's interference in Canada, specifically around the assassination of Shaheed Bhai Hardeep Singh Ji Nijjar. I now invite Bhai Balpreet Singh Ji and Bhai Mohan Singh Ji to the dais.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So we've just decided, Bhai Sahib and I, that we're going to improv this, and I'm going to get started. And then Bhai Sahib will follow up with his thoughts. So my impulse is actually to do this in Punjabi, but I'm going to do it in English. The first thing I want to do is sort of understand the roots of this problem. And it is a problem. Like over the past few months, I've actually had a number of these cases of Sikhs being groomed, converted, being pulled into these situations where they actually leave the faith. So why is this happening? What is the truth behind it? And then looking at some of the examples that I've had to encounter over the past several years. So I'm going to say three things. I'm going to start with three statements that from a Tat Gurmat perspective are completely true, incontrovertibly true. But I want you to hear them, and then I'm not going to ask you to put up your hands, but I want you to sort of reflect on how you feel after hearing them. So the first statement is that Satguru Nanak is the greatest of all, the greatest of any prophet, any leader, anything. Satguru Nanak Dev Ji is the greatest of all. The second is that the only perfect path to become one with Akal Purkh is Gurmat. And that only through the grace of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Gur Prasad, is becoming one with Akal Purkh possible. And therefore, Sikhi is superior to all other paths. That's the second statement. And the third statement is that all people are equal. All people are entitled to respect, dignity, and just like anyone can come to a langar and is served without any sort of discrimination or bias, we believe that all people are equal. But not all religions or beliefs or practices are equal. There are religious beliefs and practices that are illogical, harmful, and we don't believe in that. That having been said, we don't believe that all these religions are going to hell or anything like that. We believe that every person is judged on their own merits. So not all religions are equal, all people are equal. So the issue here is that when people listen to these three things from our own community feels uncomfortable with them. How is Sikhi superior? Why are you saying that all paths don't lead to the same goal? Do you realize that, first of all, this is from a Sikh perspective, this is true, but no other religion looks at other religions in that way, that yes, everyone is equal, everyone is going to the same place. This is our naivete. In Punjabi, you would say, Pola Pan. So if you read Bhai Gurdas Ji's Vara, Bhai Gurdas Ji's Vara are actually one of the most authentic sources of Sikhi. And when we read that, when it comes to the Islamic faith, we read that Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Gad Baghdad Nivaya Hai, Makkah Medina Sabha Nivaya. After conquering the fortress of Baghdad, which was a stronghold of Islam, Makkah Medina Sabha Nivaya. This is from Bhai Gurdas Ji's Vara, that they were all forced to bow down to Guru Nanak. And that at the end of that pauri, Bhai Gurdas Ji writes, Hindu Musliman Nivaya. And for that reason, Guru Nanak Dev Ji wasn't just located in Punjab, he traveled the known world. And that's why we call him Jagat Gur Baba, that he is the guru of the entire world. Kaljug Udarya Gurdev, that the entire creation is going to be saved by Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji. In fact, I would encourage you, if you want to know about Guru Nanak Dev Ji's travels to Makkah and the Arab countries, there's actually a person who, his name was Syed Prithipal Singh. I forget his first name, is Mushtaq something. He was actually from Mirpur, which is still a Muslim stronghold in Kashmir. And he was a Sayyid, which means a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. And he went to Medina, to a madrasa, to learn about the religion and to become a leader. While he was in Medina, he found a diary by Haji Rukunuddin. This was an Arabic mixed with Persian diary. And after reading this, it was a diary about Guru Nanak Dev Ji's visits to the Arab countries and how Rukunuddin met with Guru Nanak. After reading this, he became so influenced by Gurmat and Guru Nanak Dev Ji that he came back to India and he became a Singh. He became Sayyid Prithipal Singh. And this diary is still, you can Google it, you can find it online. And it's a very detailed history of how converts from Arab countries face so many difficulties, persecution, because of their newly found Sikh faith. The thing to understand is, when we worship something, we become like that which we worship, and we take on those qualities. So as Sikhs, Akal Purkh is compassionate, truth, Sat, Santokh, Daya, Dharam, Khima, forgiveness, all these qualities. And all those qualities are actually displayed by Sikhs when they become closer to Akal Purkh. And for those reasons, we don't actually engage in harmful debates or try and hurt other people. We don't go out there to insult other people's faiths. We don't do it because we respect their right to follow whatever they follow. But when it comes to our faith, if someone questions it, then we often as a community have not given our young people and ourselves the tools to answer. They don't know how to answer them. And therefore, our dignity and respect for all people, other groups take advantage of that. And they can then prey on our own community, which has such an amazing path. So why is this happening? Part of it is that if you look at earlier accounts of Sikhi, the earlier accounts of Sikhi all report that Sikhs had so much pride in Sikhi. They believed that this is the highest path. But with the advent of the British, and after losing our state, there was actually, we call this now cognitive warfare. It's warfare on the way you think, the way you act, basically on your mind, using narratives that are outside of you. And the narrative that was introduced is that Sikhs are such good people because they believe that all religions are equal. And they started to introduce these narratives around, you still find it, Google it right now if you want, that Guru Nanak says that before becoming a Hindu or Musliman or a Sikh, become a good human first. That's not actually in Guru Granth Sahib anywhere. That's a made-up hallmark type of quote. Which is not to say we shouldn't become good humans. But the message of Sikhi was never just become whatever you are. It was that there is a higher path, that there is a way to meet Akal Purkh. And the other problem is that once we lost our state, we felt this gulami inside us. And a gulam person has to get patronage of the person that is above them, or they can be destroyed. So first we sought the patronage of the British, who gave us these some false practices and thoughts that Sikh is just a religion, it's Sikhism, that you don't need to have a state, that you are actually good warriors, you can fight on behalf of the state. And then under the Hindu rule, or in some places where it's under a Muslim rule, you see that Sikhs are very uncomfortable, that they talk about ekta with the other groups. And ekta on a human level is fine, but that's actually translated into seeing Sikhs invite Muslims or other faiths into their gurdwara to practice their faith there. So if you come to a gurdwara, anyone can come, but you are there in a Sikh space. Inviting non-Sikhs to practice their religion in your space is unheard of. So inviting Muslims to perform namaz or have their iftari after Ramadan in your gurdwara, it's unheard of in our history. We've never done it. Why would we do it now? Because we're trying to seek that patronage. And the other thing I'll say is that we're seeing things like, in order to become like we're good people, we're trying to prove we're good people. So we do seva, we have Khalsa aid that goes to Muslim countries or Christian. We don't look at whose faith, but even things like giving space and land to other faiths to build their places of worship in our spaces, which they're free to build their own. We've never stopped anyone. But why are we doing this? It's out of a sense of insecurity. So I would argue now that our worldview sometimes is too polar or innocent. And we're focused on paropakar, and we believe that doing good for everyone is the foundational human quality. Unfortunately, not other faiths look at it that way. And other faiths engage from a perspective of conversion, and they see you as lower, and the intention is to bring you into the fold. You're a project. And I'll give you an example. I've done a lot of interfaith work over the years, a lot. And the head of this group, if you look it up now, there was something called the Cabinet of Canadians. This was created by, he's a Catholic. He's the ambassador of religious freedoms in Canada. And he was a very good friend of mine for quite some time. And one day I had a conversation. We were talking about the problems with interfaith. And I've never had a problem with interfaith. Like, I talk with other people, other religions, what's the issue? And I asked him a question. I go, is the problem with interfaith that you see me as inherently going to hell? Do you believe that? And he chup kar gaya. And then he goes, you know what, Balpreet, I can't say where you're going to go after death, but from our teachings, there's only salvation through Christ. So I ohi gal kehti without saying it in an offensive manner. But that's the issue. Like, we as Sikhs don't believe anyone's going to hell based on just the label that they have. That based on your actions, you can be good or bad, but inherently, there's no one that's bad. But if you want to reach the state of Akal Purkh, reaching realization of Akal Purkh while you're alive, then this is only a path that Guru Nanak has revealed. So what we're seeing is a lack of knowledge, a lack of connection, and we're seeing that young people, when we come to Canada, sometimes we don't teach our kids about Sikhi. And sometimes the traditions that we've grown up with, whether that's bowing to pictures, whether that's practices around you don't wash your hair certain days or you don't eat certain things on certain days, our kids are seeing that, and without authentic knowledge of Sikhi, they're starting to think that is Sikhi. And they don't have the sangat around them, the social circle, to give them that knowledge or to make them stronger. So what we're seeing is that this is being preyed upon by those people that are trying to engage in conversion. And I will point out one thing, that one of the first converts to Sikhi was Bhai Mardana. He was a Muslim. But we've actually disowned Bhai Mardana, and we still identify him as a Muslim. That Guru Nanak had a Muslim follower, and if you look at authentic Sikh sources, Bhai Mardana was a Sikh by every definition of it. That he became a Sikh, he kept his case, he followed the instructions of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. the first conversions that we sort of see are after the British period, when I talked about that, that sense of weakness, that sense of subjugation. So the Nakai missal, which is one of the missals, the followers of that actually became Muslims. And then in 1947, you actually saw mass conversions of Sikhs in Pakistan. So much so that, like, I'll give you an example. The head of one of the major Muslim organizations, he sat down with me and I go, tell me a little bit about your background. And he sort of chuckled. He goes, I'm from Pakistan. But he goes, my grandfather was a Sikh. I go, oh, that's interesting. He goes, first he became an Ahmadi, and then from Ahmadi he became a Sunni. But my grandfather was a Sikh. My daughter goes to a tutor, and just talking, she has a Punjabi last name. And just talking, she goes, I found out that my great-grandfather was a Sikh. The interesting thing is that even though thousands of Sikhs became Muslims in Pakistan, none of them ever became Sikhs again, because the communities there didn't allow it. Thousands of Muslims became Sikhs in our Punjab. And if you want to look today, a large number of them, if not the majority, have become Muslims again because prachar was done on them. One of the butchers of Punjab, Azhar Alam, who had an Alam Sena, he used to kill Singhs. After retiring from the Punjab police, he made it a full-time job to bring these Muslims who had become Sikhs back into the fold of Islam. And now you see mosques in almost every single town, pind. But if we're looking at the Ontario context, I can give you two different sort of streams. One is for boys and one is for girls. And there's some similarities and there's some differences. The concept of love jihad, or trying to pull people in through romantic relationships, it happens. And Pai Saab knows much more about this than I do. But I remember I was 10 years old, and one of my close relatives, their daughter actually declared to the family she was going to become a Muslim. And it turned out that someone she worked with had basically groomed her. And then I remember I was very young, but the family brought her for basically a family retreat and then spoke with her and basically, tried to talk some sense. And she eventually agreed to give up that relationship. But she had been basically brainwashed that everything was that boy, that boy was she was willing to change her entire life for it. When we're looking at the boy situation, how they sort of approach men, that's actually more through friendships. So asking questions in a friendly way. So, you're a Sikh, so what's the nature of God? Okay, and why do you bow to that book? Like, I've already seen that, that you guys bow to a book. Why is that? And if there's one God, then, how can you have that God is in creation? So I actually have a full list of questions that these guys ask, and they're trained. It's not innocent. And they ask questions that have very easy answers if you have some knowledge about Sikhi. But because our community hasn't given that basic knowledge, they start to question their own faith, and then they're pulled into that friend circle, pulled into Muslim, I'll just say it's into Muslim activities. And eventually, when the family finds out, it's actually too late, because they've invested so much of themselves into that conversion process that walking it back is too late when the family finds out. So I'll give you, this is less than 6 months ago. No, 6 months ago. I got a call from a mother in, her son goes to Ontario University. She said that my son doesn't speak Punjabi, and he had a speech impediment when he was younger, so we never taught him how to speak Punjabi, that we only taught him how to speak English. And she goes, when I looked through his social media, his phone was open, he fell asleep with his phone open, it was filled with Muslim content. And now he's asking all these questions that we don't have the answers for, and he's basically going the wrong path. When I had a conversation with him, I told the mother that I'll speak with him, but it's probably, very far along the path, that it's very difficult to talk sense when someone is at that stage. But the questions he was asking, even when he got the answers, he was refusing to accept them. So understanding the concept of Nirgun and Sargun is not very difficult, that Akal Purkh is throughout all of creation, but creation is manifested in the Sargun form. And that's why Vaiguru's Jyot is in all of creation. But Sargun is not eternal, but it will finish. But the Nirgun form is eternal. And it's almost like a sandbox, that in the sandbox you can make all kinds of pictures and designs, and when you finish all of that, you erase it, the sand doesn't go anywhere. They just don't understand that how can God be everywhere? I mean, you can give them the answers around, the sun is in one place and the light is everywhere, and they're, well, how can God be where there's someone is going to the washroom? What a ridiculous question, but if you're caught off guard, you don't know how to answer that. I mean, even if you're talking about like physical things, does light become dirty when it sees someone that's going to the bathroom? Akal Purkh is not light, but similarly, Akal Purkh is not going to become dirty if someone is going to the bathroom. It's a ridiculous thing to think. But using these simple arguments, will confuse kar lende hai. We had a recent call from someone that, this is outside of Ontario, but it's not nearby, it's in Quebec, that she called the police on her parents that they're abusing me. And once again, the social services took her away. When they checked her phone, the family checked her phone, it was filled with, once again, Islamic content. So she had actually been coached to turn against her parents. We had another situation that I learned about last week, that these are adults, mid-aged men, 35, 40, 45. In one session, in a home, 5 of these Punjabi men became Muslims. And when you looked into how did this happen, it was because someone on radio was saying, first 5 people or 7 people to get to this restaurant, I will pay for their meals. And he's doing these gimmicks. Seems like it's just like and there's no benefit for him. But first 5 people to come to this restaurant, I will pay for their dinner. They got caught up in this. They got brainwashed. And they came back to their families and they said, we're becoming Muslims. And 5 of them in one day became Muslims. And these are not young people. And I'll give you just one other example. That 5 young people in Brampton, Sikh boys, became Muslims. And once they became Muslims, they were told, don't enter into any discussions with Sikhs anymore. That it's not your job to convince Sikhs or to defend Islam from Sikhs. There are other people that will do it. You just focus on becoming better Muslims. And now their families don't know what to do, and they're so far along that pulling them back is very difficult. But these tactics are there, and we're seeing more and more of it in our backyard here. And the root of it is basically ignorance and this refusal that we've been brainwashed into recognizing how Mahan Sikhi actually is. So I've said too much, and now I'll pass it on to Bhai Mohan Singh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Okay, we've been working at street level for over 25 years now on the whole grooming issue, and the whole process, the 6-stage process, you can groom a person to change his faith. The same process is used to sexually abuse someone, and the same process is actually to create a terrorist out of them. Okay? We're here because we're dealing with 3 current cases of conversions. 3 of them all girls, 3 of them all at university level. So when I got called by the Gurmukhs, if we could come down, it was a 2-pronged thing. One, to talk to you guys, and the other is so that we can counsel these young ladies back into the Sikh faith. We have been talking to them over the last 6 months, but since coming here, we're aware of another 4. It's altogether 7 in your area. Okay. The process, as Balpreet, and I agree with everything he's basically said, is that they are going to target, and they will target the most vulnerable in the community. They're going to target a vulnerability. And the number one vulnerability is our naivety to the problem. If we are good, we may think everybody else out there is good. But it's the yin and the yang. Is there's good, there's evil out there as well. Okay? So number one problem is naivety. Parallel with that is naivety in a big way when we're not aware that there is a problem out there. So basically, a lot of us are walking through life, sleepwalking through life, and that is why Guru Maharaj, throughout Gurbani, tells us to wake up. Kya tu soya, jagi iyanna. Iyanna means foolish people. Why are you sleeping? Open your eyes, look at the environment that you're in, and see where the dangers are coming from. A lot of the people that we work with and the people that we have been working here, we as Sikhs, we want to see the good in everyone. But like I said, they have a different agenda. The word is not conversion anymore. The word is reverts. Because they believe that you were all Muslim and you've strayed off the path. So Gyaniji was doing a talk where God creating all the Devi Devte, and they've gone off the path, and Guru Nanak came. But they believe exactly the same thing. They believe from Adam and Eve, everyone was Muslim, and then we've strayed off the path, and when they talk to you through dawah, you're just reverting back and finding your true self. Problem is, our lack of knowledge on our own faith makes us very vulnerable. Our lack of knowledge on how they are working and how they're there to manipulate makes us even more vulnerable. And they only have to sow the seeds of doubt about your own faith, that ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੁਬਦਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, because some of the easiest questions we can't answer. I'm not saying everybody here doesn't know their faith, but you don't represent the whole community here. Yeah? There's a lot of community out there, and I don't think, and this might be a bit more controversial as well, and maybe the Gurdwaras won't give me a stage after this, but I think we've gone too commercialized, and एक ज्ञान दे केंद्र सिगे गुरु घर, पर एक ज्ञान दे केंद्र नहीं रहे. They become booking halls for where you can book your Sukhmani Sahibs, and you can book your parts, and you can book your weddings, and unfortunately nobody books your funeral because somebody else does that for you. But that's all we are. We're very commercialized. You pay the money, you get the program, you come in empty, you go empty. Okay? They have a number, a set of questions, and we tend to fall at the first place. A young girl who was an ardent Sikh at university slowly started covering herself. No short sleeves, no showing your legs, covering your head. Slowly. And you know how she was found out? She stopped eating a couple of months ago because of the fasting thing. And when we got a phone call back in London, we just told the parents to go and check in her room maybe when she's not there. I know you're going into somebody's private space, but if there's a red flag, then we need to take the steps. They went, And in a secret closet, they found all the gear, all the scriptures, all the writings, and everything like that. And you know what? Talking to the girl, we were 2 years behind what they had already done. Okay? So the only time we find out is when it's too far down the road. And they've already put a lot of stuff inside our heads. Now, we've come across severe cases where young kids, and you can Google these, and we worked on them. I always say this is the easiest part of the job that we do. You know, you fly over, you can give a talk, you can spend 10 days giving talks. But what we do on the streets every other day is very dangerous. Okay, you're dealing with dangerous people. You're dealing with organized groups. And then you get threats and everything. And I'm probably on the top of the list when it comes to bad-mouthing us on social media. All I want to say here really is ignorance of our own faith is helping them. I want to pose a question to you because you're all Sikhs here. If I asked you one simple question, because I just don't want to repeat what Balpreet said. How do we know that Guru Nanak was talking to God? How would you answer that? Have a guess. You see, we're stuck. And we are Sikhs. ਇੱਥੇ ਘੱਟ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ 10 ਆਨਸਰ ਆਉਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਸੀ ਹੁਣ। No? Nothing? ਚਲੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਵੀ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਈਏ। These lot will be easy to convert. Go on, carry on. One at the back, go on. Come and use this mic over here or whatever. I'm not putting anybody, I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just sort of trying to show you in a physical reality. It's all good, us talking here, but I'm just trying to put it into your minds how easy it is, okay? So, Hanji. Sorry.
Waheguru Ji Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm just going to take a guess to like what would be the right, because when somebody's posing that kind of question, typically, like what is the criteria for what are they asking of, like, because they have some evidence of why their person is talking to God. So it's pretty subjective, right? Like it's still a subjective answer because it's not like something that you can like tangibly say, but the subjectivity that we have is that based on their actions and the life they lived, and the purity of the message and the purity of their actions and the revolutionary actions that Maharaj did proved that he was a perfect being, and because he's a perfect being, he has God-like qualities, so he would have the relation with God, the enlightenment.
So he's made a fair attempt at it. So you got to give him some credit. The thing is, they're not interested in your answer at all. Because remember, They're trying to take you away from it. So the answers that he gave, they're not interested in that. They're only interested is causing you so much doubt that ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ doubt ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਓ, and then when you go to your parents or you go to your gyanis and they don't have an answer, they've hooked you in. Now if you had knowledge and said to them, hey, if you were aware of the dawah techniques, you would say, hey, step back. Before I answer this question, prove to us that Muhammad was talking to God. Now, we're pretty aware of Guru Nanak going everywhere, and wherever there was sangat, he would say, Jaisi mein aave khasam ki bani, taisra kari gyan ve lallo, and he would recite a shabad, it's coming. We're aware of all that. But what does your story say on that? And their story begins in a cave. And who's the witness there? So if that criteria can be used for us, we can flip it over the head. Rather than us trying to answer a question, we push it back on them. Simple. But then we get in trouble when we're trying to answer the question. In a similar way, you're saying that Guru Nanak is your savior, and the 10th Jyot is Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and Guru Gobind Singh Ji couldn't save his 4 sons. How is he going to save you? I have over 25 years of experience in debating them. The questions will get harder and harder. We're all aware कि अपने चारे साहबजादे शहीद हो गए सी. We can try to give them a good answer, and some of you will. Are they really interested because the 4 Sahibzade were martyred? He couldn't save them. In fact, they will go one step further and say he tried to save his own self, and he sent 2 of his sons out to fight a battle. But then you got to flip it on the other side and say, well, okay, before I answer this question, how many children did Muhammad have? And how many survived? Because if he couldn't save them, same thing. ਉਹਦੇ 7 ਸੀਗੇ, ਸਾਡੇ ਤੇ 4 ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ. Knowledge is power. And unfortunately, more than Gurmat or more than anything else, I think we need to create debating societies so that we can debate. This guy's a barrister, I think, yeah? Okay, just to get it right. And I think that we need the mindset of a barrister as you go in court and you know you're defending some person who's committed a crime, but if the barrister is good, he can still get him off. In the same way, in the gurdwaras, the universities, everywhere, sanu debating societies kholniyan chahidiyan, so jitte ਅਸੀਂ debate kar ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, and we know how to debate. Literally, there are hundreds of questions ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਹਿਲਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ. Hundreds. And remember, the thing is, according to them, if they get one of you guys, they're guaranteed heaven. They're guaranteed Jannat. On the women, you are talking about the lover boy model. Okay? In the East, they call it love jihad. In the West, we just call it the lover boy model. where they will praise you, where they will flatter you, where they will do anything, especially for young girls, because we live in a very highly sexualized culture. We live in a society where everybody wants a relationship and to be in a relationship. And I've come across, unfortunately, I was over in BC doing some talks in a meditation camp, and I spoke to a lot of the star aliyan bibiyan who had already been through 2 or 3 different partners themselves. So it's crazy. So the lover boy model really works. And praise works. It's a psychological warfare. Praise inflates your ego. Flattery inflates your ego. You know, you're the most beautiful woman I've seen. You're the most this. You know, you remind me of Angelina Jolie, or you remind me of Ashwina Rai, or... You know, the stupid thing is, we know what we look like. Je sada rang pakka ta sada pakka, je gora ta gora, je asi mote hain ta mote hain, je asi patle ta patle hain. But when somebody else tells us, we fall for it. That's how silly the game is. And you know what? I have these conversations with real life people. The girl we're talking about here, she fell for a guy who didn't talk about Islam in the beginning. And then when the friendship got close, you know, more deeper, and it was all touchy and holding hands, then the whole equation came in. Once he had already won her over, he now says to her, if you want to be with me, you know, there's no way you can marry me if you're not from my faith. And she started practicing, not because she wanted to find God, because she wanted to be with this fellow. And slowly, she got into it, sucked into it. And this is a similar pattern that we're dealing with the other 3 ladies. And the boys, I mean, the same model is actually used on boys, where girls are approaching them now. In all my time of people converting to Islam, it's never really been through discussion on faith. It's mainly through relationships. And that's something that we've got to talk about openly, which we don't actually. We don't talk about that kind of thing. We can talk about anything else. There's panch chorya apne. Kaam, krodh, lobh, moh, hankar. You'll get all the big katha vajiks talking about lobh, moh, and hankar and everything like that. How many lectures have you ever heard on Kaam in a Gurdwara? That's where everything starts, the desires. And we're not talking about desires when we talk about everything else. Amara says, Kaam, Krodh, Kaya ko gale, is sਰੀਰ ਨੂੰ ਗਾਲ ਦਿੰਦੀ, ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਗਾਲ ਦਿੰਦੀ. ਜਿਹੜੇ the most important subjects, ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ. And for those who are Gyanis here, who's done Santya, you will know that Kaam comes thousands of times in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And if Guru Nanak, who we believe God, Aap Narayan Kalatar Jag Mein Parvaryo, Paramatma da Roop Aapya, if he talks about Kaam, then asi kyon chichkade hain? Why are we so frightened? Actually, Guru Maharaj Kalgidhar Padsha talks openly in the Dasam, Chalitar Pakyan. But we've demonized the Granth. So what I'm saying is, ignorance plays a massive part. And if we're just going to the Gurdwara, just to matha take, give your $5 to the Gyani, take the prashad, take some langar, and you think you are spiritual, you're living in clad cuckoo land. You'll be so easy. Maharaj tells you a way to go to the Gurdwara. Man beche Satguru ke paas. You put your mind ode charna bich tis sevak ke karaj ras. But we're not learning anything. We're coming in empty. We're going in empty. And you know what? We're sending our kids out there as blank sheets of paper. And they will write anything. And I'm not just talking about Islamic conversions. There's Christian conversions. There are people, cults within Sikhi that are taking you away from your guru because you don't understand it. And some of these cases are so bad, over from say, somewhere around about 2010, 11, we've done over 80 cases in this country, around the country. And to de-groom a person, kafi der lag jandi hai, kyun gand pehlo kaddana painda hunda. And make them see sense, so you could have a long dialogue. And remember exactly what Balpri says, once they get you, they don't want you discussing your faith with anyone. They're gonna, the process actually is 6 process: target, gain your trust, fulfill your needs. Once they fulfilled your needs, they've got you, then they isolate you from your parents, from the friends that you grew up with. Your life completely changes, and then it's total control. Now we can have a question and answers on this, because I just came here sort of unplanned. I just thought I was doing an hour presentation, and so I wasn't privy to exactly what we were going to do. But I will say this one thing: the problems that we're having in the UK, you guys are about 25 years behind. Not because you're thick or you're not intelligent, purely because of the immigration pattern. Every 3rd generation will have a problem. We've got many generations out there. Now it's slowly seeping in here. Here's the thing. I was on Sher-e-Punjab radio up in Vancouver. There were so many calls that we had to go and do a second session of 2 hours with them. Over 27 phone calls went to our London office. That's 27 people we'll be talking to. So it doesn't matter how bad the issue is, sanu kadi chichkana nahi chahida, we should be able to discuss it. If we discuss it, we put it out there. If we put it out there, we'll see for what it is. And then we can understand it, and then you can put a program in to counterbalance that program. But mark my words, we was talking to a university student in BC, and he was saying how many times he's been approached by the Dawa group. every other day. Some of the girls that came to us, they were telling us that. So it means that you guys need to arm yourselves, and then you need to arm other people with that knowledge, because knowledge is key to this kind of subject. E mande pentrea. We do gatka, but e mande pentrea. Te mande pentrea ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਉਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ. If I ask you a very simple one, and I think this has been on the internet a lot, okay? As Gyani ji, I think, mentioned as I was coming in, there is a sect of Islam that actually promotes that Guru Nanak was a Muslim. A lot of them are based here, by the way. What would your answer be to them? Hanji. Uchchi bole ya ithe aa ja. Hanji. Yeah, it's good. I didn't hear it.
What's the definition of Muslim?
A Muslim is a believer, yeah? Believing in the one God. By that definition, that's what in. And that definition gets stronger because Maharaj went to Makkah and Maharaj went to Medina. Now, you're intelligent people because you ended up in universities. What happens to the ordinary Joey on the street who doesn't know much? So what I'm saying is whenever a Dawah team approaches you in the universities or wherever, you just need to collect these questions and formulate the right response, share it with your people, and sharing is caring. Vandike Shakana. I could actually talk for hours and hours and hours, and I could give you so many cases that it's going to shock you. But these three girls were all wearing the stars. And you know who she fell for? And I think for the first time when I met Balpreet about 5 years ago, it was at his office because we were going to meet the Muslim guy at Tim Hortons in where his office is. And this was the star-wearing Bibi. And he was a married person. And he had 2 daughters. But he was still able to convince this Bibi. And it took us 3 weeks of constant dialogue with this Bibi. Okay? So, I know there's going to be sort of private questions and answers afterwards, or the way it's going to be split between girls and boys or whatever. But if anybody wants to ask us a question while you're sitting here, you can. We have been doing this for 25 years. We, around the world, not just in the UK, we've had the BBC follow us for a whole year, filming on what we were doing, and then putting it on the BBC and BBC World Service, and that went out to Canada, America, and everywhere. Okay, yeah. They've just said to me that I have a 1-hour talk with you guys on a PowerPoint. Okay, so at the end of the day, I'm going to be doing the PowerPoint with you guys. And if you want to know more info, we'll cut out everything we've said already and jump to the slides that might benefit you guys as well. And we'll go more into detail as well. So
the one thing I'll add, Paisab has said pretty much everything, but we as Sikh Students Associations, as Sikh organizations, focus on other things like understanding 1984, and we should. But focusing on the fundamentals and basics of Sikhi is very, very important. Like, I go to a Gurdwara Sahib, Gurdwara Tapovan Sahib, and even for the littlest kids, we have a presentation that we do called Gurmat is the highest of all. And it goes through Gurmat, and it does a comparative study of other faiths, and it's not based out of hate. And the message is never you hate other people, but it's to understand what they're bringing to the table versus what Sikhi is bringing to the table. And if I'm very honest, and I'm doing this in English and I work with all kinds of faith groups, it doesn't matter. This is what I believe, that Sikhi, there's no difference, it's like night and day. And if you, like, I come to Sikhi from this approach, that it is absolutely perfect. There is not one thing that someone could point out of Sikhi that doesn't make sense, and if there's something that's making me question, then that's my weakness, and if I look further into it, every single time I've found the right answer. So you should have these presentations. Paisab's going to do one now, later on today. Like I said, I am local, so if you want my help, just want the presentation, help to deliver it, happy to provide you with the materials. But this is very important, so you guys have the tools, and younger people have the tools to know about their own faith and how to look at other faith when they approach them.
Thank you so much, Bhai Mohan Singh ji and Bhai Balpreet Singh ji, for enlightening us with all this information. We do have some questions that we have received from the Sangat, but if any one of you would like to raise your hands and ask questions, feel free to do that as well. So we received a lot of questions, and in the interest of time, we may not be able to get to all of them. Just a disclaimer to all of you. So the first question that we have is, how to combat the speed of street prachar, and should we also do dawa?
should we do dawa? No. Should we spread Sikhi? Yes. Why should we be using other faiths' words? Apna jehड़ा प्रचार आ, आपां नूं करना चाहिदा ते डट के करना चाहिदा. Just follow the example of Guru Maharaj, Guru Nanak Dev Ji. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ 4 ਉਦਾਸੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ, actually 5 ਕੀਤੀਆਂ, ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਿਣਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ. But he went around the world to spread the message of Vaheguru. So why can't we go to the streets and do prachar? And I advocated that we should be doing that. And showing the world who you are and what your beliefs are and what you stand for.
Guru Nanak Dev Ji went on Udasis, and the exact purpose was to spread the message of Sikhi, which is for the entire world. This is for not just Punjab, it is for the entire world. And we have to find our confidence to do it. And to be honest, when I look at our own kids, this is where you can tie it into talks around Khalistan. Because we've lived as a stateless people for so long, the confidence that we need in ourselves is actually lacking. And when it comes to our own kids, when I compare them to Muslim kids, there's even the Amritaris, there's a real hesitance to talk about their own beliefs and their faith and the perfection of Sikhi. Like, once again, I don't have a lot of experience with this, but from my own kids, the ones that have Muslim friends, they will talk about Islam with my kids. And they go to Islamic classes, they're memorizing the Quran. We need to go back to our roots and lose this gulami mentality, everyone's fine, we're okay, they're okay, we are the best. And this is the salvation of the entire world. This is what Gurbani intends. So it's our duty. We don't do it through the dawah system, which is through using lies and enticements. We do it as the truth. And I believe that Guru Sahib Sahai honge, that this will work. We just have to put a little bit of effort to it.
Thank you so much. Do we have again any questions from the audience? Parvinder?
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So my question is, how do I combat time? I'm asked a lot about time when I debate with my Muslim friends. So the way they approach it is that the prophets were alive a very long time ago, and according to them, they gave the people the path to God. So ours came much later in the form of Guru Granth Sahib, but Muhammad is often described to me the same way as I describe my gurus to them. Amazing qualities and practices of virtuous qualities, and logic says we both can't be right. The usual way it ends is with me pointing out things I see as illogical in their system, such as facing the Kaaba in the east when you're doing prayer. I point out that there shouldn't be a location to pray toward God if God embodies us all, and their response to that is to say that they don't understand my explanation of how the Lord is both creator and creation. To me, I have the potential to stimulate equal amounts of doubt for anyone not of strong conviction, but I don't seem to have an answer for the time. If they're telling me that the Quran will never be changed and its rigorous memorization means it's authentic from the time of Muhammad, how can I provide a reason for why the Guru Granth Sahib came so much later, and if it is the true path, why it wasn't revealed earlier?
I'm going to just answer the last question. This is a fallacy, and it's already been proven. But the Dawa people will still sort of throw this in your face when they say the Quran has never been changed, dot to dot, word to word. This is what appeared 1400 years ago. Unfortunately, there are 31 Qurans in circulation right now. You know? And it was their third Khalifa who, because of different readings in the Muslim world, started the project of getting the one Quran. When they're able to get the one Quran, they burnt every copy that they found. That is a fact. This is not us saying it. This is actually in the Hadiths. This is the books that came 200 years after the Prophet Muhammad. But the most common reading is the Hafs Quran, but there are other readings, and at this moment there are 31 different Qurans. There are Qurans with different surahs, there are Qurans with less surahs, and these people are aware of, and that is actually becoming an Islamic dilemma for them as well. So they've used a narrative, and now that narrative, because the power of social media and the power of the internet, they're sort of now backtracking. And then the way they backtrack, they say, the words don't change. The words have the same meanings. No, because you're not privy to Arabic and how the words change. There are ex-Arabian Muslims who then challenge them, and then they can't be challenged. So if you were approached with that question, you ask them, why were all the Qurans destroyed? Why was all the literature destroyed? And then you had a one set, and that was distributed and to everyone. Yeah, it means there was something there that wasn't quite right. So you get rid of all the evidence and then push the one narrative. Yeah.
The thing about time is that you would have to start according where they believe with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve's story doesn't make any logical sense from the scientific perspective. And with the scientific perspective, Sikhi is absolutely fine that there is Arbad Narbatun Dukara, and from there, Ki Tapasao Eko Koao, and then Sache Te Pavana Pya. From the true one, there are gases. Pavane Te Jal Hoye. From gases, there's water. Jal Te Tere Pavan Saja Kat Kat Jot Samoy. That from water, the three worlds, the world that lives in the sky, on the earth, and in the water, all the life forms are created from there, and Waheguru has put his jot in all of them. So if you believe in the Islamic concept that you're born, and then you die, and then you're judged, then you're right. There's a huge problem. We don't believe that. We believe that our souls this is not our first incarnation.
No.
that we have many incarnations. And when someone's ready for Sikhi, then that's when Sikhi comes. And every single Jug from Satjug had their own dharm, had their own way. But the udar of mankind is when Guru Nanak took avatar in Kaljug, and therefore Kaljug is the actual highest of the Jugs. And every Jug had their own dharm. The time now is to Kirtan. And Guru Nanak has introduced Kirtan Bhakti, and this is the time. So the soul was received Gurmat when it was time to receive Gurmat. That it wasn't ready before, and now it has received it. So there's no injustice to souls that were existing in the past. But here's my question. There are still millions. You've got a whole chat GPT now. Look it up. How many people are not aware of Islam today? There are still millions of people that are not aware of Islam, that are not taught Islam, that aren't even aware of its existence. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਬਣੂਗਾ? That if there's only one incarnation, then why did God just do such an injustice? Okay, Islam was available to the Arabs, and then these people that are living in some rainforest that have been uncontacted or some other northern remote area, they don't know anything about Islam. Why did God do this? Why did God, if the eventual goal is paradise, that's the reward, that you're all going to Jannah, then why is a Muslim guy that's born in an Orthodox Muslim family getting the same reward as someone who's born in a Hindu family? Such a big struggle, he would have to leave his family, relearn everything, and the reward is the same? Then where's the justice? Why did this guy have such an easy path, and why did this guy have such a hard path? That one baby, they say the baby that dies will go to Jannah. Well, what an easy path it had. ਉਹ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ 90 ਸਾਲ ਉੱਥੇ ਗੋਡੇ ਰਗੜਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ, he's going to get the same reward as that baby that lived 1 second? From a logical perspective, from a justice perspective, it doesn't make any sense.
And also, I'd just like to add to that. Adam and Eve's story only goes back 6,000 years. So, one day of Allah is 1,000 days of earth time, yeah? And we, according to science, have found fossils and bones and of humans which predates thousands of hundreds of years, yeah? So, you can take that angle. But there is a hadith, and they say that everybody will go to heaven if you accept Islam and become a Muslim. I forgot the person's name. He served Islam all his life. He served Muhammad all his life. And then when he died, there were people there standing, he's going to Jannat, he's going to Jannat. And then Muhammad himself raises the question, how do you know this guy is going to Jannat? Even I don't know, am I going to Jannat? This is not my writings, these are all in the hadith. The only thing is, they're not going to show you that part, they're just going to show you where it causes you a conflict, yeah?
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So you mentioned that like right now we're sending our kids out as a blank slate, but you know we're in the GTA and even in the UK there's so much Sangat, there's so much Gurmat camps, the Punjabi schools, and even in the UK it's kind of like the home of Bhai Jugraj Singh, who did a lot of these debates with Muslims and like kind of debunking misconceptions. So despite having all these resources, how is doubt so easily created despite having all these resources, Sangat in this community? And just for an example, like I have a friend group where we're all Punjabi Sikhs and there's only one Muslim friend, and she actually once, we were all sitting there and she did kind of bring this, like that misconception you brought up, like, oh, Guru Nanak Dev Ji was a Muslim. And she brought that to one of my other friends who wasn't well educated, and luckily I was there to kind of like say that, well, you know, this is a common like misconception to kind of convert Sikhs and create doubt. And again, luckily I knew about this, but despite having all these resources, how is doubt so easily created? And or do you believe that whatever these resources that we have aren't doing enough?
I'm just going to be very, very polite. I didn't understand a word this young lady said. Maybe it's the accent, maybe it's the...
It's because the mics are that way,
Yeah.
so the speakers are that way.
Okay,
Come
so...
closer, tell us the question.
So I didn't understand it. Yeah.
I'll just summarize. I won't go through the whole thing again. But I guess my main question was that, in the GT and the UK, there's so much Sangat, there's so much Gurmat camps, the Punjabi schools and all that. So despite having that, how is doubt so easily created? And do you think these resources aren't doing enough, and what can they do better?
I'll pick on what you're saying.
Okay, so there are lots of resources out there, there's lots of Punjabi schools, and the problem is that within our own community, there is a lack of confidence and understanding. So they have the audacity to come to you and talk about Guru Nanak and the fact that Guru Nanak has an Islamic robe and this, that, and the other thing. It's all ridiculously circumstantial stuff, but it's enough to cause a doubt. And then it's not based on, they're not focusing on people that are knowledgeable. They're focusing on people that have a very superficial attachment to Sikhi. And once you cause that doubt, and they then direct them to their own resources. Like I was looking before coming here, there's a Dawa site, it's called Islam Sikhism. And I was reading through the articles, and it's just filled with fallacies. Like they're basing their arguments on translations of Guru Granth Sahib, which are in some cases completely wrong. And then they're using those translations to target Sikhi. And no one's got the knowledge to actually, forget knowledge, no one's got the time to answer most of these things. But it's not about someone who's access to resources or is taking the time. It's about pulling someone in and then creating a social circle, taking friends and building trust. So if someone really wanted to find the answers, you could find it. But they're focusing on those people that don't necessarily have the time or have the ability to do so. I'll give you one small example. It's not just Dawa. When I lived in a house in Newmarket, the Jehovah's Witnesses sent a Punjabi guy to target my house. And the thing about me is, I don't mind these conversations. They don't make me feel uncomfortable. So, Andasi, and I used to invite him in, and I used to debate with him, and I used to laugh at his arguments. And then one day he brought 3 or 4 Punjabi friends. And their stories were very interesting. They said, "मैं ना दरबार साहब सेवा करदा हुंदा सी जदों 5 ਵਜੇ ਸਵੇਰੇ ना तड़के 5 ਵਜੇ ਉਹ सेवा करदे आ मैं ਉੱਥੇ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ." First of all, I know for a fact कि ਜਿਹੜੀ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ सेवा ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ, it's like much earlier than 5 o'clock. Like it's like around 1, 2 o'clock. And his story was, and he quoted me stuff. ईसा मसीह आएंगे जगत को तराएंगे ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm going to show you with I Gurbani, or I'm just going to pull that up, and it doesn't come anywhere. Nahi hega. And eventually, I didn't get tired of it. My wife, who's from Punjab, she got angry at them. And his name was Balbir. Balbir goes, "Bhen ji, tusi kahonge na asi na aaye, asi nahi aavange, asi ta bas." And she goes, "Haan, main hi keh rahi haan, tusi ithe na aaya karo." And they never came back. But down the road, there was another Punjabi family. And when they found out about us, we talked to them. And you know what the Jehovah's Witnesses had told them? They go, "Oh, Singh ya, oh bas barn wala hi hai. Asi utthe jane." She used to see that they're coming. And he told them that I was about to convert. And she goes, "Mera ta sara hil gaya. Main ta apni maa nu phone kita ke maa mainu Sikhi bare thoda jiha das, mainu koi sakhiyan suna, mera ta man hor tarah ho gaya." And I go, "It's absolutely false. It's not even, it's my fault, I guess, for entertaining them, but lies." So it's not just one faith group, it's all of these conversion tactics.
Yeah, and I think he's said it all, but what I would say is that as a qawm, as a panth, a lot of our investment is going in the wrong areas. Where koi gussa na kare, मैं कह भी दिना हुन्ना जे तुसी कर भी लिया, it makes no difference to me. मैं तो जहाज फड़ के मुड़ के इंग्लैंड नूं चल जाना, so it doesn't really bother me. ਇੰਨਾ ਲੰਗਰ ਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਟਰੀਟਾਂ ਤੇ, ਡਰੱਗੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਨਸ਼ਈਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਿਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ. We're probably across Canada, we're probably spending about $100,000 a week. if we were able to pull that in, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਘਰ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਦੀ ਅੱਗ ਬੁਝਾਉਣ ਚੱਲੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸੜ ਜਾਵੇ, that's a sign of insanity. That is what you call insane. ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਾਗਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਸਪੀਟਲ ਪਏ ਟੀਕੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਆ. These are walking, talking parkles. Okay? So what we need to do with all the resources that what we're doing, we need a risk assessment of what we're doing, how it's working. If it's not working, we need to tackle it so it does work. The Panthadis works for the Panth. So whether it's at school level, Punjabi school level, or whatever, but I'm telling you this, we are wasting so many resources, and we are lakir de fakir, we are still doing the same thing. ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਛਕਣ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬ੍ਰੈਡ ਬੰਸ ਤਾਂ ਪੀਟਸਾ ਖਿਲਾਈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹ ਮੁੜ ਕੇ ਫੇਰ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ 10-15 ਪਾਉਂਡ ਬਚ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ 10-15 ਪਾਉਂਡ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਚਦੇ, they get in their next fix. You're actually promoting them carry on having the drink and the drugs, because the money they were going to use for the drink and drug, they're getting free meals. It's nice ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਕਿਤੇ earthquake ਆ ਗਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਆ, we send what's the name. ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਦੇਖੋ, not just the grooming issue or the conversion issue, ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗੀ on all issues, domestic violence, mental health, you name it, there's topics that we can put our resources to it for the betterment of the Panth, and that we need a dialogue, a real good dialogue. Yeah?
I would argue that that's part of that gulami mentality.
Yeah.
That we want people to say, we're good people. Look, we're performative langars. I'm not saying don't do langars. Langars are great, it's important. But performative langars are not a part of who we were. And the other aspect of langars that we aren't really including, langar challa gur shabd har tot na aave khatti hai, that gur shabd da jehda langar hai, the teachings of Guru Sahib, that's not anywhere to be found. Not even in our own gurdwaras. The langar was of the body and of the mind. And we've got the body part, and we've gone overboard with the body part. I mean, it's gone well over the dal fulka, and it's gone into some pretty, crazy stuff. But the gur shabd,
it's gone so crazy, ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਸ਼ੱਕ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ.
I'll give you one story. It was a Bajorg who told me this. He goes, I'm not saying don't serve, but I'm just telling you what he told me. He goes, we gave a vegetarian meal at the homeless shelter. And he goes, they came and they looked and they go, what the hell is this? And we go, it's a vegetarian meal. And they go, where's the meat? And he goes, there's no meat. He goes, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਨਾ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਕੰਧਾ ਤੇ ਮਾਰਿਆ ਉਹ, ਤੇ ਉਹ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕੰਧਾ ਤੇ ਮਾਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਏ, ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਉੱਥੇ ਫਿਰ ਜਾਣਾ, ਉੱਥੇ ਵਰਤਾਣ. I mean, it's kind of like it's so disrespectful. But I mean, ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਵਰਤਾਓ ਜਿੱਥੇ there's an actual need. I mean, if people are picking up your food and saying, what's in it, I don't want to eat this, I don't want to eat, that's probably not the clientele that you're looking for.
In the interest of time, the next question will be the last question, but don't worry. These questions will be answered after in the next talk as well. So the last question, I'm going to be combining two questions together. So the question is, how should we discern between genuine friendship and relationships with those from the other faiths, with relationships in which the other faiths have an ulterior motive such as grooming? And the other question is, in your experience, can maintaining relationships with other faiths without the implication of conversion possible?
It's simple. If it's a real relationship, they will not want to change you into anything. They came to you because they saw something good in you and they wanted to be your friend. If somebody wants to change you from A to B, it means they have another motive. If they accept you for who you are and they still want to become your best friends and they like you for whatever, however you look, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਖਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ, ਕੀ ਪਹਿਨਦੇ ਆ, and they accept you for who you are, that's real. ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਚੇਂਜਿਸ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਾੜੀ 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 ਮਾੜੀ, you know that it was never a real relationship, because they got to you because they're some sort of vulnerable, they've got close to you, they've gained your trust, and now they're trying to manipulate you in a new way of thought, a new way of thinking.
Thank you so much. For now, and now we'll be breaking for lunch. For those of you that want to ask questions anonymously, there is a QR code at the back on the laptop. You can scan it using your phones and answer your questions directly. Be assured that you won't be asked to fill in your email address or any identification. Just straight answer ask the question, and we'll get it to our speakers. So we're breaking for lunch for half an hour, following which we'll have breakout rooms with Bhai Mohan Singh ji and Bibi Gurleen Kaur ji.
Bhai Saab and I were just saying that if someone has a question, you can still come up to us during your lunch, and happy to have a chat.
Just two more announcements as well. Sorry to take your time again. We are hosting this event at Sikh Institute in Glidden Gurdwara. So we're having two events come up in this place. So the first one that is coming up is next week on Saturday, the 23rd of August, and Sunday, the 24th of August. Starting at 5 p.m. and ending at 7 p.m. The event is called Unleash the Warrior Writer in You, which is to encourage writing, creativity and reflection on Sikh historical events from 84 to 94 through flash fiction, short stories, novellas, novels and fan fiction and non-fiction. And this workshop will be led by author Simarjit Kaur, and you are requested to bring a picture, a resource or a book that inspires you. The other event is on the following weekend, on Sunday, August the 31st, right here at Sikh Institute from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., where we'll be releasing the book release of the wondrous Anok Singh, which is written by Bibi Simarjit Kaur. It will be released, and there will be discussions on this book as well. So make sure to come out. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.